Okay, good morning, good afternoon. It's afternoon, it's officially afternoon. I know some of you on the East Coast, oops, that was my microphone. Some of you on the East Coast, it's been afternoon for hours. And I'm going to give it a minute for people to get on before I launch into all things energy. Hi, Debbie. I feel like you and I could have a personal conversation today just about energy. Okay, I'm going to wave to you. I don't know how that's going to work. I waved. Might be better just to do this, right? Anyway, so I'm going to wait for a few more people to get on. And if it's afternoon, early afternoon here, just became afternoon, it must be early evening there, Debbie, right? Anyway, hi, Carrie. Hi, Jane. This is fun. Hello, Carrie. Okay. All right. And Flavia, I haven't seen you in quite a while. Of course, you may be watching these, and I don't know because usually Claudia is here. And I'm here by myself, and so it's so distracting because texts are coming in. I should probably turn the ringer off. God knows that happens. But anyway, we're here to talk about all things energy. Hi, Kim. Hi, Anna. So this is fun. Oh, I bet it's beautiful in Maine right now. Hi, Katrine. So I'm just giving everybody an opportunity to get on for a moment. Hello. Hi, Kim. It was so fun to talk to you the other day. Really fun. So anyway, so I wanted to talk about energy and really kind of go into some specifics. But I have to do a big introduction and a reminder about the intensive. Okay, no, hi Flavia, you don't have to stay quiet. It's fun to have you on. I haven't seen you in a while. And again, like I said, Claudia is usually behind the camera, and now I have it flipped and I'm seeing all this activity, which is really fun. And now I have something in my eye. It's already been such a great day. It was not too hot here, and normally I get my horses out at night, but my favorite thing is to work out and to get my horses done first thing in the morning, and I did it! And managed to get some work done. So anyway, if you're new to me, I'm Joan Ranquet. I'm an animal communicator, healer, author, speaker, TEDx speaker, and founder of Communication with All Life University. My school has been in existence for 10 years. This is the 10-year anniversary. I've been teaching since 1998, so it's 21 years of teaching. And my mission, if you will, is to empower others to deeply connect with all life so that together we can give voice to those who can't speak for themselves, and ultimately, but in doing that, we will heal the planet. And, I just want to remind people that somebody said to me the other day, well, we have to help people too. And I just thought, you know what, the minute you focus on animals in this specific way, you're automatically helping people and you're automatically raising the frequency of the planet. And I can't say that enough. And so I know that like Jane is dedicated to the wolves in South Florida or in Central Florida, and people that are on here already, everybody's really dedicated, and this is such important work. I mean, we really are, no matter what aspect of it we're doing, we're really helping better the lives of everyone. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And I wanted to talk a little bit about energy, but before I launch into that, I want to also say that I've got so much fun coming up. And hi, Rebecca. And I want to see, let's see if you, Candace. Hi, Yasmin. Okay, it's like everybody's back. Yasmin's been gone for weeks. And Rebecca, I haven't seen you on here. You could have been on here. And again, like I said, on Wednesdays, Claudia isn't working for me, so it's hard. We miss Claudia when she's not here. And my dogs miss her dog. Anyway, and it's been really fun because her daughter's been coming to work. So I've had Claudia times 2. I wanted to talk about the intensive. I think it's coming up. We're coming to the end of the early bird special. And so it's animal communication for the first 3 days, animals in transition for the next 3 days, and then energy healing for animals for the last 3 days. And Rebecca, if you could get a flight down here, I would love it. Anyway, we have, you can do 3 days, you can do the whole 9 days, you could do the animal communication and animals in transition. There's it's, you know what, I call it the Remember Intensive because I feel like we all talk to animals. We always have, we always will. And what happens is, because it was something that we did as babies, and once we learned language, we lost that ability, that when you come to a class, you're just remembering that you do it. I don't teach a lot. We just remember. And so I feel like we come when we remember that we can talk to animals. And then we have the animals in transition. And so we remember a lot of animals that we've lost, and we work through our grief. And then we talk to other animals from the other side. We create a giant memorial. It's absolutely beautiful. And then it's like soul food. I can't explain it. And it's the one I always have Kleenex around, but we end up laughing more in that class than any class. And then we remember that we can do energy work. The last 3 days is all about remembering that we have this ability. You know, when you think about Jesus, he was the first one that we knew that did laying on of the hands. And that was, I'm so not biblical, so I'll screw this up. But Rebecca knows that I went to a Catholic girls' school for 9 years until I was kicked out. So that's when it all went away. But these, he talked about how these miracles ye shall also do. That it's not anything that one of us has. And if you think of how energy work really came together in terms of the first known energy work, other than laying on of the hands, was really, if you look at what the acupuncturists were, what the Chinese doctors were, they couldn't go meet with the emperor, right? They had to rely on the feel of the needles through a string. So the emperor's handman would go in and put the needle in the acupuncture point, and the doctor would be very far away, maybe in another, 3 other rooms, with a long string attached, feeling what was going on for the emperor and healing with just the energy in their hands. So when I teach the energy healing for animals, it's still called Remember. We are remembering that we do this, that we can do this. And it's, something that I was talking to Kim the other day, and there's so much in this world that is just the world thinks that it goes this way, but there's a whole bunch of us that know that there's another way. And so we have to come together and trust that, because we don't have evidence in our everyday life. So one of the most important things of a class and a tribe is having other people that create evidence for and with us that we're doing this, and that we can remember we can do it. And because we've got each other's back, we could go out into the world and share these important skills. I'm not going to say gifts, because it's a skill set that we have. And again, sharing the skill set to help animals is automatically raising the frequency for the people around and the whole planet. So that's That's the intensive. And which leads me, and let me just add that if you're thinking of coming, there's always a potluck at my house on Saturday night. I usually get a tarot card reader here, and we have a lot of fun. And sometimes we have like massage, like we have a little bit of everything that Saturday night. And then we also have that Tuesday night we have a gathering, and the Friday night we have a gathering. And we often go out as a group out to dinner. We have lists of people that are looking for room shares, for car shares, and we have all kinds of hikes, things that we do together. I usually sometimes people go out to the beach on that Monday morning before the animal's in transition. And so anyway, it's just a whole lot of fun. And I just want to see. Hi. Oh, good. There are people here. Hello to Michigan. Hello. Oh, hi, Paula. Okay, good. You're here. Yeah, and Eleanor is saying it's so important to be with other people that believe the same things. Because you know what? When we go out into the world, we have a lot of evidence that this isn't working. And this is a perfect lead into what we're going to talk about today, about energy, emotional leadership, chakras, things like that. Because the truth is, this is the real stuff. This is the real thing. But we have plenty of we have proof all around us that there's another reality called reality. But it's the energy that is what's going on, what's fueling it. Hi, Carrie. I'm so glad that your dog Cody is enjoying his wheelchair. And I know that, Carrie, you talked about coming down, so that would be great. Let's see. You have to be so strong in your truth that others' dismissals mean nothing. That is so true, Ginger, because and there are a couple of things that make you that strong in your belief. And number one is knowing that other people are doing it, seeing it, experiencing it, and then having a whole, almost like a whole field of energy that carries all the amazing miracles that you've already been facilitated or been part of. And so it's really, hi Sue. So the strength comes from me, and I talk a lot about this with my students, so Carrie and Sue can chime in on this. The strength comes from the experience, and the strength and experience, is something that when we continue to see incremental changes, if not big miracles, we have no choice but to create, we have to start believing in it ourselves. And I'll tell you, my sister, I know I've told the story here, but for those who have never heard it, in 1986, my sister was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And I was living in New York City at the time, and I went to the NYU had an alternative library, a library of alternative health, and it was about the size of somebody's kitchen. I mean, not the most giant kitchen. It was not a big library, and I went there and I spent hours and hours there for several days before I flew home to be with my family in Seattle. And I sublet my apartment and I came home to Seattle with piles of books thinking, okay, we can do this. And my family laughed out loud at me. Like, what sort of denial are you in, Joan? Lori's going to die. That's what a brain tumor means. And so, it was crushing. And my sister did do exactly what all the doctors had said, that she literally She was diagnosed, I think, on June 30th, and by December 16th, she didn't even make it to 6 months. It was like 5.5 months. She died right on her expiration date, right in there. And I remember thinking, well, I still believe in this. I still absolutely believe in this. I have no evidence, but to my core, I believed that there was another type of healing. And I also I couldn't take that as the end all be all. I just took that as that was their experience. They weren't open to it. And a couple of years later, my other sister became sick with something else. And suddenly, my family couldn't afford to lose another daughter. And so my parents and people around me. And so suddenly those same books that were left probably in the exact same place got dusted off and pulled out. And my parents started looking at things a little differently. And so that was kind of my crash course into energy healing and alternative health. And to me, that is health. To me, our medical system is the alternative. To me, that's like, okay, if your arm is dangling off, you'll need stitches, but you'll still need all the other things to help you stay centered. And so it brings me to our animals need us to stay centered. So I talk a lot in my book, and I don't know if you've seen the new cover of Energy Healing for Animals. Hooray! Here's the new cover. But I want to go back to what Ginger said, that when my students start out with, when they go through the program, the big program, the animal communication, the EFT, emotional freedom technique, and the scalar wave that we do, energy healing, they have to keep a journal. And when people graduate and they it's like an evidence journal. It's like it's like a book. And when they get on the phone with me at the end, like I did a call the other day with somebody who just graduated. I've done a lot of graduation calls in the last few weeks. And to hear them tell me about their favorite experiences with animal communication, energy healing, and for them to tell me what it was like to go through the journal of the beginning to the end and how much stronger and amazing they were. But even in the beginning, it was happening. That sort of evidence journal is so important for people. And so even if you're not studying with me yet, you may want to start keeping track of what you're doing, what is working for you and what is not. So I'm going to, before I launch into more, yeah, okay. So nobody's writing anything. Anyway, this is the new cover of my book, same back, for Energy Healing for Animals. And then in Communication with All Life, we're going to go through both of these for a little bit about chakras. But so in both books, I talk about how we have to be the emotional leader. And what does that mean? So, and why did I come up with that? And now here, of course, there you go. So what that means is, I've been in the horse world most of my life. And of course, I've had dogs most of my life. And I've been an animal communicator now about 29 years. I've been around like the sort of alpha idea, and I've been around the lead mare idea. And I thought that emotional leadership was the perfect title because when you think of the idea that, we forget that like horses are prey. We forget because it's our best friend and we're just brushing and maybe we're going to lunge or hop on, but we're just having a day with our horse. And then they do something that shocks us, and it's, it's like a what? Something startles them, and we're like, wow, we are so chill here. How could you freak out over a baggie? So, that's one example. Another example would be, the dog that has anxiety in the house. Another example would be the cat that is completely, shredding the furniture. So all three of those things are places where guess what? Every one of those things that I've just described are based in an emotion. And animals by nature in the wild are very emotional. Their whole life is based on emotion. Their safety is based on emotion. Their safety is based on emotion. So when we look at the idea that, a herd of horses can be sitting there eating and their tails are swaying and they're just completely asleep, practically just sleepwalking and eating, and horses move, practically 18 hours a day, and they're nibbling, and they're eating, and they're pooping, which means if you have horses, you're picking up about 18 to 20 poops a day. So let's say they're just completely chill, but one of them senses something. They go into high alert, they're connected with each other, and they react as a herd and perhaps run off to the next safe zone. So they are on a perpetual emotional alert. Our dogs are looking to us for leadership. Our cats are expecting us to serve them. And so all of those require a certain amount of emotionality. So instead of saying, and a lot of women were really uncomfortable with the word alpha when it came to looking at leadership with dogs. And I noticed that in the late 90s when I first started really working a lot with several dog trainers. But they could step into the idea of being the emotional leader. And so, and it's the same with the lead mare. Like, a lot of people don't want to go out there and be almost aggressive versus assertive. And so emotional leaders seem to be like that sweet spot between the two, because sometimes you have to be a little more than assertive, but not quite aggressive. So I felt like emotional leadership was that perfect blending. And I also really noticed that, like the horses in the wild, that were aware of what was going on, that they had a web, if you will, that was connecting them at all times. And that web of connection is what Dr. Rupert Sheldrake calls the morphic resonance. And he wrote a book called Animals or Dogs Know When Their People Are Coming Home. And he did a bunch of experiments where he time-stamped cameras, put them in people's homes, and he lives in England, so it was all around London. And people left work at different times than they normally would. And at the moment that they got up from their desk in downtown London at 3:52, their dog was getting off the couch and sitting by the door. And he did experiment after experiment after experiment. And the book is great. If you just read the first few chapters, you get it, because he just shares the story over and over, and it's remarkable. But the idea is that even when we're not around our animals, we're in that emotional web. We're in that emotional connectivity, that kind of what I talk about in the first book, Communication with All Life, that sort of like one mind stickiness. But morphic resonance is a better phrase. And so I look at like what is going on in our household to create what I call the emotional thermostat of the household. And for me, it's that somebody has to step in and be the emotional leader. And when you start to look at that, you can start to examine how do I create the pH of the household. And if you look at the thermostat, like it was really hot yesterday and I needed the house to stay cool. So, you set the thermostat to a certain level, and the house will, no matter how many times you open the door and the heat comes in, the house levels off at this temperature, right? So I want the temperature of my household, my morphic resonance, my web of energy between me and my animals to maintain at harmony at all times. So I can be up and down. Somebody else can be up and down. Like the other day, Abby wasn't feeling well. She drank too much water at the beach. And then she ate too much horse poop. It was really gross. So she was kind of low on the food chain there. But then today she's perfectly fine. So, but our household doesn't get taken down because, oh no, Abby. We know she just has to throw up at some point and carry on. But the point is, I don't worry about things like that. It doesn't freak me out. I know that she's going to get rid of it. And, hi, Grace. And so that's the sort of thing that is absolutely what brings on what I call the harmony of the home, because I'm the emotional leader. I'm not going to freak out because Abby isn't feeling well. So that said, if it were something bigger, I would have to still stay in this emotional leadership and move into helping her get better, whatever that would look like, whether it was going to the vet or doing some sort of healing with her. And I would still have to stay in a pretty neutral, upbeat, emotional leadership state. And then when I look at what each of the animals are, how I can determine what's going on, I can also look at them from an energy, and I hope all that made sense. I'd love to hear if that made sense. And then, I love to break it down. You have the energy field of the household, and I actually call that, when it comes to animals, kind of the 8th chakra. It's the energy field that includes all of our auras. So we're all connected, and it has its own emotional life. It has its own intelligence. It has all of the it's our soul family coming together and being in the state of being. And again, somebody's got to be the emotional leader. Let's see. Okay, good. Somebody thinks it makes perfect sense. Thank you. I'm glad, because I'm just talking here without Claudia. I don't know. Because Claudia can give me a look like I'm crazy. Anyway. So for those coming on, we're talking about the energy field and energy of the household. And so carrying on with that, each individual has energy, right? So what makes up our energy? And our energy, we have our physical being, and we have an energy field. And so do our animals. So for me, that blended field is where we have to really... Hi, Bobby Joe. Long time no see. So the energy field has to be maintained, and again, having someone be the emotional leader is pretty important. Is very important. And then if you look at, so we've got our energy body and we've got our physical body, and what is kind of like the map for all of it, and that's the chakra system. And so I thought it would be fun today to kind of review what goes on. So I know I've got some horsey people here, and I've got some dog people and some cat people. So when we look at the physical body, and I like to say this whenever my students, especially if they've come from some other energy background, like, it's not enough for you to talk about chakras to me, because for me, a chakra system has both the physical and the emotional. So if you almost think of like a chakra sitting there, and it's almost like a figure 8 or an hourglass. Like part of it is just outside of the body, and then part of it is in. And it's almost like that little in between of the hourglass is where the skin meets. So our chakras are just right here, but they're also in. So that means it takes up a certain amount of our energy system, takes up our emotional system, and it is completely connected to and regulates our physical system. So there are actually, if you look at the system, it's pretty clear what goes with what, and we'll go over it in a minute. The other thing I wanted to say is that by the time somebody has, like, say, diabetes or pneumonia, it's come into your field of energy before it even hits your physical body. And I'll give you an example. I don't know about you, but I can always feel like if a cold is in my energy field. And I woke up this morning, I was like, oh no, summer cold. Oh no. I feel you in my field. I feel you. But you cannot come on until this weekend because I have a lot to do until Friday, and then I can sleep this weekend. So I actually talk to my energy field like that almost every day. Like, no. I used to be able to tell if I could feel a migraine in my energy field before it would actually hit my body. And even if I took everything to remedy the migraine, I could still feel it in my energy field. So that there's a lot to play with in the field, and we can start to see this with our animals as well. So when we look at the chakra system, and I'm going to see if anybody's saying anything before I launch into that. Okay. So if we look at the chakra system, our first chakra, of course, is we're sitting on it. I'm sitting on mine right now. How about you? Anyway, it's in the same spot so it's like physically, externally, it would be like right under my sits bones, and it moves into that area. So it includes the sexual organs for females. It includes the immune system. It includes my legs. It includes a dog, cat, and horse's hind legs. It would include a dolphin's tail. It would include a bird's only 2 legs. It would include, so physically, that's where it is. And it has a lot to do with, and so energetically and emotionally for all of us, it's about our safety, our original tribe, our original family, our family of origin, and it is absolutely connected to how much we look around for safety. And again, if you missed the beginning, I talked about how an animal's entire survival is based on their ability to be safe. And their ability to be safe is being connected through their energy field to each other, or to the ecosystem for that matter. So when we look at how animals are functioning with each other, we can see that, like, for example, horses, they greet each other. You know, they're constantly swinging around like you could talk to my butt. And dogs, they smell each other's butts. Pheromones come through with the for cats. You know, cats are constantly rubbing up against each other, and so it's not just their survival, but their scent. Like, this is my territory. So a lot of the way in which animals greet each other, or, you know, snub each other, is through that first chakra. So we have to look at, and when you look at a lot of animals who have a lot of fear, and even fear aggression, that whole hind end is so can be so tight. And sometimes to undo that, you know, you look at, like, in this book I go into it briefly, and it's still thorough. So for those of you in the book club, you can kind of, we actually think it's the last chapter, but we're going to go over it. But if you think even like, God, what is one thing I could do for my animal? And especially when we're talking about the first 3 chakras, a lot of it is body work, and I'll tell you why. I love energy work so much. I actually wrote a book called Energy Healing for Animals. But the thing with animals is that if they have a disturbance in their first, second, or third chakra, they are not grounded a lot of times. And because they're fight or flight animals, they tend to leave their bodies. So if you're a horse person and you know you've got this horse that's got, you know, a lot of fear, you can usually feel it from their hind end, goes out from underneath you, and they shoot out. They usually bolt. And third chakra, challenges I'll talk about in a minute with horses, because there's another thing they do. They can internalize, which still feels like the horse came out from underneath you. But the idea of an animal being fight or flight, and you've got this first chakra, I mean, you can really see that, like, a horse, when it gets nervous, can swing its butt around. You know, we have ways of noticing. Tails are tucked with dogs or cats, tight hind ends. But what we want to be able to do is do more body work than energy work, because we need to ground that energy. We need to be putting them back in their body. We go over a lot of this in the Energy Healing for Animals Intensive, and I don't even know what time it is because the time doesn't show up. So anyway, I feel like you know what? I could just spend an hour on the first chakra. I have a mare going through these issues right now. So you know what? I'll tell you one thing, Bobby Joe. This old Linda Tellington Jones trick of, like, when you clean out the hind feet and you just tap with your hoof pick. I swear to God, and I spent a lot of time, because I have little Anya, my horse, who just, she's a Cancer, so even goes with astrology, right? Cancer needs safety. She can spook. She's so good these days. But I worked on her hind end, and when I would groom, I'd even just overly spend that time with the tail. And I bet there's people on here that know what I'm talking about with their dogs too, so I'd love to hear. And again, that's just the first chakra. You can start pairing that up with the rest of the chakras, and it gets a little crazy. And that's where the body work. Not only does Lucy get lots of EFT sessions, she gets a daily massage too. It's helped a lot. Yeah, because they need to be in their body. They have to be in their body. That's why they're here. And you can see, like, if you look at, like, a herd of horses, or if you, I take people to Africa a lot, and I was just in Kenya, going to South Africa. We're going to Kruger Park twice, so that's November 1st through the 8th. And I'm going to be in Houston in September. I keep forgetting my dates. But anyway, when you see a group of, like, zebras taking off because there's a threat, you can usually see, oh my God, my cat's tail. Talk about first chakra. Look at that. It's Henry's tail right there. So funny. He's giving us a little first chakra vibe. He's wacky. So when you look at, like, all the zebras running or all the giraffes running, you almost see that the hind end drops. It's fueling, but animals become what I call two legs and a head. And you've probably seen this a million times, like when horse swings around, it's like, oh no, I'm not doing that. Or the dog really, like, you start to see it's two legs and a head. Cats, two legs and a head. Like, they become so strong up front. And then that's when you start to see, like, front end injuries, because they're not in their body. And that's dogs, cats, horses across the board. So anyway, I love that Lucy gets lots of massage. So when we start looking at the, and Carrie, let's see, Jordan. Okay, and Jordan, I think you're a horse trainer. I think you work with horses. Totally know what you are talking about for when a horse leaves its body out of fear. Not a good feeling. Keeping them with me is so critical, right? And that's when we have to match up our first chakra. If we're on them, we're all of a sudden like, our sit bones have to be, like, safe but alive. I mean, we have to sit grounded. We have to sit into our first chakra and say, all right, I got this. I got this. Sometimes I feel like my whole trot is, I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm right here. I've got this. I've got this. I've got this. My old horse Raleigh, I used to, and Carrie, she hated them at first, the massages, I bet. My old horse Raleigh, I swear to God, my mantra was, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. And I would be like, outside rain, outside rain, outside rain. And I'd have my inside leg to just, like, hind end, hind end, hind end. Like, in dressage, you're learning how you're riding the front to back. And so a lot of that becomes such a key piece in how you even ride. I mean, I literally taught this my chakra class to a bunch of horse trainers, and they all went out and won their classes because they saw that they could actually ride, from a chakra perspective. Okay, Carrie, now she loves them. I also have her take a couple of deep breaths before we go on our walk, because we all know how exuberant she is. Yes. Exuberant, right. Yeah, maybe you should be bringing her out and working with the trainer. Bobby Joe, Tellington T-Touch is a wonderful thing. Thanks for a reminder for my cranky mare. T-Touch, I'll tell you, just doing a little T-Touch around that hind end, just around that hind end, right? Like, I've got this. And I always say that to my mare, too. I always come up and just say, look at that booty. What a cute booty. So I just spent a lot of time back there. And there's also something else called, I can never say the word, but it's a different kind of tapping where you're going from left to right, left to right, left to right, left to right. And you're linking up each side of the brain. I do that a lot on Anya's butt before I get on. And the other thing is, the minute I get in the saddle, I put my hand back and I touch her butt and I say, I've got this. You know how normally we thank a horse or put our hand in front? I've always got my hand in back. Like, okay, I've got this. And it really feels like counterintuitive to stick your hand, to do that motion, but it's amazing what it was. Yes, Sue, my horses can't wait. And EMDR, right. EMDR was the base, Liza, of that concept of the left to right. And you can do it through patting the horse. And I do it with my with a dog I used to have that was very feral. I did that a lot on either side of them. And you do it with them when things are good, so that it's a rhythm. And my horse, Gabrielle, I did it with her on the trails. I do it with them when things are good, so that it's something they can come back to. They can come back into their body when things get sketchy. When they get into two legs and a head. Okay, let's see. What else? Yes, EMDR. Exactly. And EMDR is what EFT was created from. And, the average person can't be an EMDR practitioner. So it's something that, that's where the EFT comes in so handy for those of us that are not shrinks. Hey, Carrie, could you let me know what time it is? Because I can't see anything. Anyway, the second chakra. So for us, and for all of us, it's the reproductive organs. It's sitting right under the belly button and above the pubic bone. It's our sacrum. It's physically, it's that whole area, our reproductive organs. For men, it's also their sexual organs. For horses, falls right in there. Okay, 12:43. Thank you, Candace. And so what the okay, touching the butt and saying I've got this. I do that with our dog on walks. She's gotten so much better. See, isn't that powerful? And that's what I do too. And as much as we're so in our brain kind of trained to put our hand up front, it is so much. Okay, I have 15 minutes. You know what? I swear to God, I could do 2 hours just on the first chakra, because if you think about the whole idea of emotional, how much an animal's safety is based on that first chakra, it's not even funny. I mean, those first three chakras, we could say, solve almost all behavioral issues just looking at the first three chakras. And that's something we do in the intensive. And I thought we were going to get through it all today, and we're not. But guess you'll have to fly out. Anyway, the other thing about those first three chakras is, we can see it actually physically. And like I said, something that happens in the tummy or in the body shows up in the energy field first and usually is energetically connected to one of the chakras. So let's do 2 hours on the first chakra. I'm in. Yahoo! Yeah, I can imagine after our conversation it would be really good. And it'd be really good with the Mustangs. It'd be really good. Anyway, so the second chakra, we'll go into this just for a couple minutes. Because I want to talk about the first and the second chakra for a minute, or the second and the third, because it's our fourth chakra for animals is like that human-animal connection. But the first three chakras, just like humans, is that really sort of tribal, primal, those kind of emotions, and aren't necessarily emotions for animals or connections that have the same connectivity with us as that fourth chakra forward does, whereas those first three chakras have a lot more to do with them, with each other, or their sense of safety, or their sense of self. So when we look at the second chakra for animals, for humans it's sex, it's reproduction, it's creativity, it's one-on-one relationships, it's power, and it's money. And so let's take money out for our animals. What is the first thing we do with dogs and cats in this country? And we have to, but we spay and neuter them, right? So we've taken away a lot of what they consider to be their power. And so that is a pretty big thing to take away from someone. And again, I'm not saying, there's no blame here. It's just we can't even handle the animals that are spayed and neutered, and we've got a genocide in shelters, so what choice do we have at this point, right? And because we don't take enough responsibility with training and with maintaining them and things like that. So in the meantime, this is what we've got. So we're taking away a certain amount of their power, and a lot of times, we're not necessarily providing them with the kind of creativity that their little soul needs. And so this is an area that breaks down pretty quickly. And when I look at and you can also see physically, you can see the patterns, and we spend a lot of time doing this in the intensive and the energy healing, looking at what coming into the energy field affects us or them, and then where even the hairline is with each of the chakras or the organ systems. So the reproductive organs are involved here, and again, the one-on-one relationships, the creativity, and if they are not spayed and neutered, their reproduction. So, and the third chakra, I really want to get to this, and then I know we have to be done. I want to talk about this because if you look at the third chakra is, of course, our solar plexus. For horses, it's right where the saddle goes, and for all of us, it's our gut instinct, and it's all of our filtering organs, if you will. So all of our filtering, whether it's digesting or how we take in food, how we take in somebody else, how we take in this experience, how we filter, all of it. And when we start to look at that filtering system, we can really see a breakdown in the digestion. And when we pair up a lot of the animals with anxiety and the digestion issues, it's amazing to start to see that sometimes animals with anxiety, seeming emotion, you can start to treat with even a probiotic. So that's just, I just wanted to throw that out there, that it's both, that we can't ever just look at the emotion or the energetics. We always have to look at what organ system it could be affecting, the liver, all of that. So the filtering, how that animal or we are taking in the experience, and how then as the emotional leader can we be more protective? How can we set them up better? Anyway, all of that is, I think, it's so rich and it's so important. Let's see, Sue, I think that's the best thing I've learned from the energy healing course is how to focus the energy. That's big. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, I could go on and on. I would love to see if anybody has any questions, comments, observations, or maybe, you know, maybe, and so I can just really quick while I'm waiting for the questions to come in or comments, or if you have an animal that you have an issue with or something. But if, you know, the fourth chakra, of course, is the heart, and it's the universal love. It's, you know, for animals, it's not the romantic love, but you know what? It can be. But if we look at the heart-centeredness, like how many of you have animals that have horses with front leg injuries? You know, they've kind of had their heart broken over things. My dog Delilah came into the household as just an open heart, and she injured her front leg. She's done it twice, and not small injuries. Like once gloved herself, another time broke a leg. Both times either while I was on a dolphin trip or right before I went on a dolphin trip. And she was a big heart connection, still is, of the household. But there, you know, we were losing one of the dogs. She was getting older. It was just, there were a lot of things playing into this. One of my horses had cancer. That was solved. But, you know, you just look at all the heart. It's the chest. It's the arms. For a bird, it would be the wings. For our dolphins, it would be their little fins. So it's all these heartfelt things, these animals that come in with these big hearts. Those sorts of injuries, those sorts of experiences. The lungs, of course, are grief, and the heart is, of course, joy. And more people coming on. Sorry, I'm so blind. Anyway, so these sorts of emotions also correspond with the physical body. And again, I think of infinity with that, with a chakra. It's both the emotional and the physical life. And so the throat, of course, for people and animals is the you've got your thyroid in there. You've got your ability to voice, to speak the truth, to share, to express. And the sixth chakra is the third eye. Is also, if you look at how many animals have, I believe we all had the ability to echolocate. And if you start to look at like dogs, I bet that as Frankie, Sue has a dog that's had one of his eyes removed, and I don't think sees well out of the other eye. I think that as we start to adjust to blindness, as we see blind dogs, things like that, they often look like they can see, like they actually are seeing out of their third eye. So, I mean, I think that it's amazing how much we've shut this off, and how when we get into the more energy world, because we've lost a particular sense, that we gain the energy back from that. And then, of course, the crown chakra, and just a little completion on that. I think that in many ways, our animals that have a lot of head shyness, they very much have been, you know, we humans have been the agent of the divine for them. And so their fearfulness is often because something has happened between people and animals. Let's see, why did... okay, so... Liza, why did animals with big hearts injure their front legs? Tristan. Your dog Tristan reminds me so much of Delilah, and when you come here, you'll see. I think that they injure themselves with it's almost like their heart is so big that's they come in and they're taking on, in my situation, my dog was taking on both the other two dogs, and she just continued to open and open and open but it was not, I mean, I would have to really look at Tristan's situation, but I think that a lot of times they just have such a big heart, and there's something that's, whether it's, and it's no human blame, but things are stopping them from, that they have to kind of slow down. Sometimes they want to fix everything, they want to help everything, they want to do everything, and yet it's like they can't, just like some humans, they can't fix everything. Learning to focus is one of the best skills. Cultivating, yeah. Okay. Candace. That just happened with a client. It was a blind dog, and I swore he could see. You'd never know. It's so true. And Liza, we'll go more into that too with, Tristan, and you'll be in the energy healing course coming up. But my Delilah did it twice also, and it's kind of stunning. And for me, it's like I have to take a step back and go, okay, I'm going to slow this down. I'm going to slow this down so that this doesn't happen. And of course, you have to slow down so that they heal, because they would just run off with a broken leg, make it worse, or whatever it is. But anyway, I have gone on and on and on. And what does noise sensitivity come from? So I would say that's definitely a sixth chakra. I mean, I think that like the noise sensitivity is that they almost have. It's sort of like being a human empath, right? Like, it's too much, and they can't quite focus, or they can't. It becomes the thing that sends them over the edge, when in truth they're already overly empathic to begin with, and they're taking on so much that the sound just says, "Okay, I'm out. I can't do it." Okay. I have to stop because I know that we only said we're going an hour, and I've got 3 minutes. Now this little timer thing showed up because I have an appointment at 1, but she knows I'm always a few minutes late from this. But I just wanted to say I love going over all of this. This is what we do in the Energy Healing for Animals intensive, the third module, so to speak, of the Remember Intensive this fall. It's also what we do in the Energy Healing for Animals home study course. So I hope we go through all things energy when we do the energy healing. I'd love for you to join me. Jordan, I'm very noise sensitive. Yeah, and Jordan, my guess is you're both super empathic, and that's where it's just like you get to that like, nope, I can't take on another thing. And this noise, I'm very noise sensitive too. I spent so many years with a headset on, years, talking to animals, and it was long before people were out using their speakerphone. Like when people use their speakerphone, I'm always like, okay, I have to get off the phone because I hear too much stuff. And yeah, I don't even like, I like the sound of the wind. That's kind of it. Oops, speaking of sound, I keep hitting this speaker. Anyway, this has been really fun and delicious, and I've loved it. And I've got so many more behaviors I would review, Jan. I love going over behaviors and physical behavior and physical. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I really want to thank you for joining me. I hope you can come to the intensive. I know I'm the same way, Eleanor, about noise. You're welcome. You're welcome. So much fun. I hope I'm happy to get on the phone if you're interested in the animal communication, the animals in transition, the energy healing for animals, either the intensive, or I've got animal communication or energy healing for animals home study courses coming up. So please join us. And I'm so glad that people came. Kim, I would guess we would have a lot of fun working with your dog, Kim. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Bye.